All right, so we're going to talk about variables. If you don't know what a variable is, that's okay. You probably already think of the world in variables. You probably think about variables like what's the temperature going to be when I go outside. In your head, you kind of know that there's a holding space for what the temperature is. And that's really all a variable is. It's something that can be set to a value and can be set to the value of something else. In PHP, the really great thing, which is also the really bad thing, is that any variable can really be any value. So in some computer languages, you have to say that this variable is going to be a type, meaning it's going to be a string, so letters. It's going to be a float, which means a decimal number, right? Like a number point something. It's going to be an integer, like 7. In PHP, you don't have to worry about that. All you have to worry about is that we're going to set a value. So let's look at an example that has nothing to do with computers. And I made a variable, and it's this little box, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the value of that variable to be Greg, okay? So that variable could be called my box, all right? So now the value of my box is Greg. Now, what if I set the value of my box to Anne? Well, the value now is Anne. If I say, like print my box, it would print Anne. And if I change it back to Greg, it would print Greg. All right. So these are examples of strings. These are letters. These are characters. You do have to understand that when, like if this was Buddy, so Buddy was one of our cats. If this was Buddy, if I change it to be Buddy 16, that's still a string. Even though there's numbers in it, it's still a string. So that's important for you to know. Um, so those are strings. We can also have numbers in there, right? Like I can set my box to the value 7. And I can print out something like my box plus 5. And what's it going to do? It's going to say that my box plus 5 equals 12. Because the variable my box is holding a number. If I said, interestingly enough, and plus 5, do you know what the value would be? It would be, it would come out as and 5. And we'll talk about that in just a second. I think I just totally maxed out the microphone. So variables are ways that we can store things. The other interesting thing about variables, or types of variables, is that some variables, some boxes, actually can hold a bunch of variables, at the same time. Those are called arrays. Let's see if I can do this. I pre-thought about it, right? So in an array, it's not just my box, but it's my box, the first index item, which is always labeled 0. Please don't ask why. That's a computer science thing that is above my pay grade. But my box 0 is Anne. My box 1 is Greg. My box 2 is Buddy 16. Right? So all of these are stored in an array. That's a normal array. There are other types of arrays that I can show you. I'll show you the real version, not just boxes and cardboard. But you might have something called an associative array. So we'll say that this box is now an associative array, which means that you can have almost like little variables inside, such as user, and you would use these arrows, and color, blue. So if I were to say my box user, the value would be Anne. If I said my box color, the value would be blue. I know it's a little weird to use these as sort of the definitions with these boxes, but I think that should get you going. Now what we're going to do in each of the videos is go over one of the big types that we would be using during the semester. More than likely, we're going to use strings. We're going to use numbers. We're going to use arrays. I mean, we're going to use... It's really interesting how much we use arrays in the world. And then we will also show you some associative arrays. And then things, the power of arrays, which I'll talk about when we talk about arrays, is that you can have arrays of arrays, right? So let's talk about that. Let's get started first just with strings and how we can manipulate them.